Hey, welcome to the setup guide for the PJ range of printers and the DS range of scanners with Killer Ink and Brother. I'm Paul, how you doing? So first I'm going to talk you through the printer range. Today we're going to be using the 723. So setup is pretty straightforward. Just plug the USB into the USB port of your computer, and at the time that I'm filming this, both the latest Mac operating system and the latest Windows operating system will recognise the printer. If not, go to your local Brother website and download the latest driver software from there. There's a printer utility on the website and your driver software. Your printer is then ready to use. There's very little setup with these printers in terms of options that you need to set at that point. The first one that you're going to print out is going to be a realistic stencil. So I'm in Photoshop. I've got my realism stencil of the Joker. So we take the three-piece paper. I've taken away the protective sheet, the brown sheet in the middle. I'm going to fold the yellow sheet back. I'm not going to tear it off. I'm going to fold it back and I'm going to just leave that glued edge on because the printer needs that glued edge to keep the top sheet and the carbon sheet aligned. Okay, so I'm going to hit print. I've got my size options and everything there in my print dialog, and when I hit this dialog, the next dialog box that comes up, now this may be a little bit different in Windows, but you'll find these options somewhere in your print dialog. I've got a basic and an advanced option. The basic option you can pretty much leave the defaults, they don't make any difference really for what we're doing. It's more for this printer's other capabilities, not anything that we're particularly interested in. Now here in the advanced settings we've got density options. If we were thinking in terms of a traditional thermofax, think of density as heat. More density, more heat. Less density, less heat. If you've got a stencil that's got a lot of dark areas, you might want to turn the density down a little, otherwise it can crinkle the paper a little bit and your print's not going to be as clear. This one hasn't got too many, so I haven't got any problems, so I'm going to leave the density at 8. You've got an adjustable print speed here, so if you want to print it out slower, if you're having any problems with the crinkling your paper, which you'll find occasionally if you've got a very purple stencil that wants to lay, you want to lay a lot of purple down. Occasionally you want to drop this print speed down because that's going to make life a little bit easier for you. This one's not too much, so I'm going to leave this to rip it out as quick as it will go. Then we've got 3 options for half-toning. The half-tone options are basically how the printer deals with a grey area. The first option, which is logo and text binary, basically makes the printer ignore anything that is not solid black. The bottom option, it will create a diffusion picture out of dots and attempt to print out an image. And the middle option is similar, but it uses a slightly different dithering or half-toning option, so it's better for simple graphics and stuff. My stencil is very simple. I'm just going to use it for logo and text, and I'm going to hit print. So we wait for the data line to go solid. It tells us that the data has finished printing to it. And of course, because this printer is so portable, you can take this to conventions with you. And it doesn't overheat either, so you can make stencils all day, no problem. I made a banner out of stencils at the London convention, you know, just because I could. You know, it ran fine all day. Let me just show you what the printer is essentially doing when you're asking it to do one of those 2 dithering options that I was talking about. This is the image that this tattoo is, not the line drawing. So I'm going to show you how the printer sees that. So when you ask it to dither or use diffusion, this is what the printer sees. It sees your image like this. So you can see there is a series of dots. So that's effectively what the printer is going to attempt to do to your image when you select one of the dither options. I don't recommend printing an image like this to use as a stencil because as of now, I haven't found a stencil fluid that's capable of working with an image like this. It just doesn't hold as strong. Partly because when you're using the diffusion setting, the stencil isn't in the diffused areas, like the shaded areas, the stencil just isn't as strong and it's too easy to wipe off. So I don't recommend running out just straight from an image. I still prefer to use the traditional line drawing method. But that's effectively what the printer is looking at and how it's interpreting your image. That's what you're basically asking it to do. So one of the other benefits of the printer, it's picking up and printing at 3 times better quality than your standard thermofax. The next stencil that I'm going to print out is going to show you a little bit of that. So you can see here there's loads of like fine little dot work things and like loads of little details in the hair. If I can print out very, very fine intricate stencils, it's actually not that much of a challenge to tattoo it because I can see it, so I can just tattoo it on. So we're going to hit print again. We go into those advanced options simply to check them. Well, this one's got a little bit more black, so I've dropped the density down to 6. And I want to show you the fading. So I've got a little faded area here that I've just put on to remind myself when I did this tattoo that I just want to fade that area away. So I'm going to leave that dither option on and I'll show you what that does for a faded section. Okay, so now I'm going to hit print. Data light is already flashing. Okay, so let me show you a couple of the benefits that I've just been talking about. One of them is the detail that the printer will actually print out. At 300 dpi, it's capable of a lot more than your regular thermofax. So these tiny dotted areas, these small details that I want to leave in to make this thing look like a bad printout. So I want to leave all these areas. Now normally with a thermofax I would lose all that and I'd have to make it up, but at least with this I've got a really good reference now on the skin. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is how that, the fade that I put on the artwork that I wanted to be there on the stencil to remind myself, I just want to fade away from here. This is how the printer deals with those fades. I can now see that in my stencil that when I get to that section, I've got that visual cue to say, oh yeah, don't forget, it's not a solid piece, just fade away. It's a good thing to have as part of your stencil. Again, something that a regular thermofax just simply can't do. So one of the questions that comes up a lot with artists about the printer is that they make freehand artwork and that they don't use a computer for that part of their process. This little thing might change how you feel about that. You'll still be able to do your hand-drawn stuff, but you'll still be able to use the benefits of the printer. So let me introduce you to this mobile scanner. So it's literally a case of putting your artwork into the carrier sheet, putting the carrier sheet into the machine. There are no settings really to configure, it pretty much plug and play, comes out the box ready to work. I've got the scanner plugged in via USB, and via USB it can see SD card in the back of the scanner there. So the scan that I've just done is literally a case of opening it like you would open a digital camera, and you can see there the image that I've just scanned is there. So then all I've got to do is open that in Photoshop, just crop it, and now I'm ready to print it. And it means that in the studio you could scan all of the stuff you want to put out on your front table, your drawings, and have them available to you on your computer to print straight out in your booth. So I'm hoping that you can see a way of incorporating using this and this into a workflow that just makes life a little bit simpler for you using these two objects.